Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm in the workshop today, actually doing a few repairs to my caravan of all things, but you can see here that I've got a broken spring. This spring is actually snapped at the top leaf there, and this whole spring assembly was moving around. And we noticed that we'd just come back from a trip up to Longreach, which is about 5,000 kilometres return. Got about halfway and I noticed that this tyre that was on the other side was very badly worn, so I replaced the tyre, but I didn't think to look on this side, and when we got back I noticed that this spring had actually cracked in half. So what we're going to do today is actually take this spring leaf out and replace it with a new one. So I'm just having a look at the front here on this front spring hanger, which is here, and trying to work out why this spring might have snapped. And I've noticed straight away that there's a bit of a gap here between where this spring hanger is and the bush, and it looks like this nylock nut here is partially started to unwind a little bit. And I think what this would cause would be that the spring can actually move or flex from side to side, and I think that might have had some factor to do with it. So I don't think there should be that sort of gap in there. I think it should be quite nice and flush. So that could be one reason. I have read on forums with JK Caravans that sometimes you can break a spring if you're reversing the van and the angle is too severe to the tow vehicle, and it can actually twist the axles at the back a bit, and it can lead to a spring snapping. But who knows? I'm not too sure why, but anyway, it's got to be replaced. So here you can see just how dangerous this situation was with this top brake here, and there's actually an air gap here between the second leaf, and nothing is connected to this eyelet up here at all, and the whole spring assembly could actually move backwards and forwards as well as in and out. So we're lucky we didn't have more problem with it. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is actually take this bottom plate off that holds the spring up onto the axle, and this is a double nut on here, so there's a standard nut on the bottom and a nylock nut on the top of it. So we'll take all of those off. Got to use a spanner on this one because the thread's too long to get a socket on it. If I had a tube socket I could probably get it, but just have to use the spanner. Okay, I've taken my spring hanger out. I took them both out, they just slid out of there, and now this spring is somewhat loose. I'll just undo the last couple of turns on my U-bolts here, and this whole spring should fall off. So the bolts in the spring hanger look to be okay. I'm just looking at there, and there's not a lot of wear on those pins at all, so they'll be okay. I can put those back in and reuse them. And it's out. Okay, here I have the good spring from the other side of the van. That's the broken one over there. And this is the good one, and this obviously is the new replacement one. I found these springs at a company up in Brisbane called Couplemate, and they make replacement springs that you can buy online. And what you'll need to know is a couple of dimensions and specifications when you order the spring to make sure that you get one that is exactly the same as the one you're taking off. And let's just go over that. So the main thing you're going to have to do is work out the distance from eye to eye of the spring, how far it is across from there to there. The number of leaves in the spring. So in my case, I've got 6 leaves here. And also you need to know the thickness of each leaf. And in my case, it was 6 millimeters. So I had the distance from eye to eye. I had the number of leaves in the spring, and I had the thickness of each leaf. The other thing you need to work out is the height from the point down here up to here. You need to know that measurement as well. And I did all that and worked it out, and they had a spring which I could just buy quite easily. And as you can see, this spring is exactly the right size, the eye to eye length is exactly right, and the height is exactly the same. The other thing to think about is these springs are what they call offset springs. So what that means is this point here goes up and sits in your axle. And if you look at the spring, it's not actually in the middle of the spring, it's actually offset towards the front. So you need to know the measurement from here up to this eye here. There are some springs that are centre mounted and some that are offset, and you sort of need to know that when you buy the spring. If you don't, that can mean that the axle position is going to be put back in the wrong position. Anyway, they're good. I've replaced this one on the other side of the van, and I'm just going to put this one in now. I would recommend, if you're going to replace one, that you probably replace 2, just so you make sure you've got exactly the same spring rate and everything on the axle. This one here I'm going to keep, although it's still good. This one hasn't broken, and this one is still good. And what I'm going to do with this one is actually just keep it in the van. And if I have a breakdown or break another spring, then I can put this on as a replacement. And I think, gee, if I really had to, I could probably do it on the side of the road. I wouldn't like to, but I think I probably could. Now these springs and the eyelets have a nylon bushing in it. And I did ask the guys at the spring place whether I needed to put a steel bush in there so I could have one of these pins that had a grease fitting on the end of it, but they said it was probably not necessary unless it was used for a lot of heavy off-road work, which it's not. So I'm just going to stay with this nylon bush that's in there. The pin itself is okay. I'm just going to put that back in. I am going to put on some of this grease onto it. So this is some Penrite Moly grease, and this is the black grease. It's got the molybdenum disulfide in it, which is better for pins and bushings and stuff. So I'm just going to smear a little bit of that on my pin and then put it back in the bushing. I don't know. Okay, so that dowel now has gone into the axle, and that is now sitting in the correct position. I can put my U-bolts back on. Get a couple in here first. guess I should replace these nylock nuts, but they seem to be quite hard going on, so I think the nylock is still working. But yeah, if you had access to them, I would probably put new ones on. What are you up to now? 13/16, is that it? So the last bit with the right. Now they say with these nuts on the shackles that you don't want the shackle to be really tight, otherwise you don't get the movement up and down on this. So what I've been told is that you tighten it as far as you can until it's tight, and then you back it off a quarter of a turn about there, and that should be about the right value. So we'll see how that goes. So do it up tight, and then back it off a quarter of a turn about there somewhere. Right, that should be it. Well, there we are, job's done. I've got the new spring in. It's all into the correct position. I've got it located up in this rear eye. Go over the back here. The U-bolts are in the right position. The axle is centered on the dowel, and the front spring hangers there are in the correct position and are okay. So that's about it. It wasn't all that hard to do and saves a lot of money. So hopefully we won't break another one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.